After their mother died that morning, two siblings entered a courtroom clutching her final letter. "She told us to find the judge," the boy whispered, but when the judge read her words, his hands trembled. The courtroom fell silent, because what she wrote revealed a buried truth and an unbearable guilt. The courthouse lobby was cold that morning, polished marble floors, humming fluorescent lights, and voices echoing through its vast corridors. No one noticed the two children at first. A girl, around 13, wearing a faded jean jacket. A boy, maybe 9, holding a small backpack too tightly. They stood out not because of how they looked, but because of how still they were. They weren't crying, just waiting. The security guard glanced at them once, assuming a parent would show up behind them. No one did. After 15 long minutes, the girl stepped forward to the information desk. "My name's Lily," she said, her voice steady, "and this is my brother, Noah. Our mom died this morning." The clerk froze. "Excuse me?" "She left a letter. She said to bring it here and give it to the judge." "Which judge?" "She just said the judge who'll understand." A murmur passed through the front desk. Someone called a bailiff, another called social services. Within minutes, Lily and Noah were led into a private conference room with water bottles and tissues. Lily didn't drink. Noah clutched the backpack, silent. That's when Judge Alan Merrick entered the room. A man in his early 60s, clean-shaven, stern eyes behind thick glasses. He had served on the bench for decades, thousands of rulings, hundreds of families, but he had never seen anything like this. "I'm Judge Merrick," he said kindly. "You asked for me?" Lily stood and handed him a single envelope, already opened, worn at the creases. She said, "You'd remember her." Merrick slowly took the letter and unfolded it. As his eyes scanned the page, the color drained from his face. Lines from the handwritten note flashed through his mind like fire. "Alan, if you're reading this, I'm gone, but you owe these kids more than the world knows. Their father is you." He nearly dropped the letter. Memories he'd buried decades ago returned like a flood. A girl named Marissa, barely 20, bright-eyed, hopeful. She had worked in the records department of the same courthouse. He had been a junior lawyer back then. They had spent a summer in a whirlwind romance, but he was engaged and she had disappeared before fall. He never looked for her, until now. The room blurred. "These children are yours?" he whispered. Lily watched him tearfully. "She said you'd understand, that we weren't supposed to find you unless she was gone, but we don't have anywhere else to go." Merrick sat down, slowly. His heart pounded. He wasn't just a judge anymore. He was a man standing face to face with the children he never knew he had. The bailiff stepped in, unaware. "Sir, do you want CPS to take them?" Merrick didn't answer right away. He looked at the two kids, Lily's fierce eyes, Noah's quiet fear. And in Lily, something flickered. Marissa's strength. Her way of never asking for help, but needing it all the same. "No," Judge Merrick said, voice shaking. "No, they stay with me, for now." The courtroom behind him was still full, hearings waiting, calendars tight, but at that moment, everything else felt irrelevant. Because in one envelope, the past had come crashing into his present, and now two lives hung in the balance of a man who was once too cowardly to ask, "What if?" Judge Alan Merrick had presided over criminal trials, custody battles, and class action lawsuits for over 30 years. He had seen hardened criminals cry, families fall apart, and corporations lie under oath. But nothing had ever unraveled him the way a single letter from Marissa Daniels just had. He sat in his chambers long after he told Lily and Noah they could stay, for now. Her handwriting still haunted him, steady, strong, as if she had written it knowing exactly how it would hit him. "Alan, I never wanted to ruin your life. I just wanted to protect theirs." How could she have kept this from him? 2 children, his children, and she had never once reached out, never filed a suit for paternity, never asked for a cent? He thought about the timeline, the summer of 2010, the way she suddenly stopped showing up for work. He had assumed she moved on, got married, maybe left the city, but now it was clear. She had been pregnant, alone. He felt ashamed, but more than that, he felt the crushing weight of what he'd missed. Lily was 13, sharp-witted, fiercely protective of Noah. She barely blinked when he asked if they had other family. "No," she said simply. "She said we weren't allowed to meet Grandma. She said that side didn't want us." And he knew immediately who that meant. His side, his mother, his legacy, his carefully curated life, his high society marriage, his spotless record. They would never have accepted Marissa, let alone her children. "She raised us on her own," Lily continued. "She worked at a diner, took night shifts. We didn't have much, but we had her." Noah finally spoke. "She told us we were special because we came from love, even if it got lost." Judge Merrick had to turn away. He excused himself, walked briskly to his office, and locked the door. Inside a drawer, he found it, a photo, an old one. Marissa, in a sundress, smiling beside him at a park, the last summer before everything went cold. He gripped the frame with both hands. He hadn't just missed birthdays. He'd missed scraped knees, bedtime stories, Noah's first word, Lily's school plays. Every memory had happened without him. He could have hated Marissa for keeping them hidden, but when he thought about it, he realized she had protected him too, protected his reputation, his career. She could have destroyed it with a single headline, "Judge Merrick abandoned secret family." But she didn't. She waited until she was dying to let the truth out, because even at the end, she gave him a choice. The next morning, Judge Merrick didn't report to the courthouse. He took personal leave, no press releases, just silence. He spent the day with Lily and Noah, driving them back to the small apartment their mother had left behind. He wanted to see how they had lived, where they had grown. It wasn't much: a broken sink, a mattress on the floor, drawings on the fridge held up by chipped magnets. But it was full of love. In a box near the corner, he found Marissa's journal. She had written letters, dozens of them, one for each birthday the kids had celebrated, one for every milestone. She even wrote a one addressed to him. "If you're reading this, it means I've trusted Lily to be brave. She always was. Alan, you had a chance to live the life you chose. I had to live the one you walked away from. But I never hated you. I only hoped that someday you'd meet them." By the time he finished reading, Judge Merrick was crying into his hands. He had sentenced hundreds of men in his life. Now, for the first time, he judged himself and found himself guilty. The morning after they visited Marissa's apartment, Judge Merrick made a decision that shook the core of his quiet, structured world. He called a meeting with the family court administrator. "I want full guardianship of Lily and Noah Daniels," he said calmly. "The legal documents already half prepared. Effective immediately." The administrator stared at him. "Judge Merrick, you know this could go public." He nodded. "Let it." But that was only the beginning. Within 48 hours, the media caught wind of it. A well-known, highly respected judge filing for emergency custody of 2 children, and not just any children, children who turned out to be his, from a relationship long buried. Headlines exploded. Judge's secret children surface after mother's death. Merrick's private life unravels. Hidden past comes to light. He tried to shield Lily and Noah, but it was impossible. News vans parked outside the courthouse. Reporters stalked the sidewalks. Questions flew at him each time he stepped outside. "Judge Merrick, when did you find out they were yours? Why didn't you support the mother? Do you regret not acknowledging them sooner?" He said nothing, not publicly. But at home, in the privacy of his old colonial house, he tried to rebuild what was lost. Lily and Noah had rooms now, real beds, warm meals, tutors, a golden retriever named Charlie. But no amount of comfort erased the truth. Noah began wetting the bed. Lily refused to unpack. One night, she confronted him in the living room. "You think we want this life just because it has pillows and clean windows?"
Judge Merrick paused. You didn't choose us when it mattered. We're not your charity. He nodded slowly. You're right. Then why are you doing this? He took a deep breath. Because your mother was the bravest person I ever knew. And because I will never forgive myself for not choosing her. But that doesn't mean I'll make the same mistake again. Lily said nothing, but her silence was not anger this time. It was the beginning of understanding. The following week, Merrick took a stand no one expected. He stepped down from the bench. At a press conference, he stood before cameras and reporters and said, I have lived my life believing that justice was something you gave others, but I learned too late that it must begin at home. I failed 2 innocent children and the woman who loved them. I resign today, not out of shame, but out of hope that I can now become what I should have been all along, a father. The room fell silent. Some praised his bravery, others condemned him. His reputation split in half, but none of it mattered anymore. He drove home that night, no longer Judge Merrick, just Alan, a man learning how to build a life from the pieces of truth. At home, he found a surprise waiting. Lily and Noah had decorated the hallway with handmade drawings. One said, Our New Start. Another had all 3 of them, stick figures holding hands. Charlie helped, Noah said quietly, pointing to a paw print. Alan knelt beside them. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. Lily looked up. We don't either. But we can try, Noah whispered. And so they did. Together. Months passed. Winter melted into spring, and the scandal that once gripped headlines gradually faded like an old newspaper left in the sun. Judge Alan Merrick, now simply Alan, found himself waking each day not to court hearings or legal filings, but to breakfast chatter, spilled cereal, and school schedules. It was messy, beautifully messy. Some mornings, he still stumbled. He once tried to iron Lily's school uniform and nearly burned a hole through it. He forgot Noah's allergy to peanuts just once and sat by his hospital bed the entire night, whispering, I'm sorry, son. But every mistake was a lesson. Every small success a victory. There was no rule book for becoming a father at 61. No courtroom manual could tell him how to comfort a child waking from a nightmare, or how to braid a teenager's hair before a recital. But he learned, because love doesn't require perfection, just presence. One afternoon, Alan took the children back to their old neighborhood. Lily hesitated, biting her lip as they neared the diner where Marissa once worked. Are you sure? She asked. Yes, Alan said. She deserves to be remembered. Inside, the manager recognized them instantly. He came out from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a stained apron, his eyes misty. He talked about you two every day, said her babies were her greatest achievement. They sat in the same booth Marissa had once taken breaks in, ordered her usual sandwich, and shared stories with the staff. The visit ended with tears, hugs, and a photo of all 3 of them beneath a sign that read, Marissa's Corner, a plaque newly installed in her honor. Later that evening, as they sat on the porch, sipping cocoa, Alan handed Lily something wrapped in a faded napkin. Inside was a locket. He opened it carefully. One side held a picture of Marissa, the other a tiny photo of 2 newborns. She carried it everywhere. She told us once, if we ever found you, to give this to you. Alan's throat tightened. He clutched the locket to his chest. I didn't deserve her grace, he murmured. No, Lily said softly, but you're earning it now. That night, Alan couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about the unexpected twists life had taken. In all his years of chasing justice, he had never realized how blind he'd been to the truth in his own story. He wasn't the hero. He wasn't even the victim. He had been lost until two children knocked on his courtroom door holding nothing but a letter and the quiet strength of a mother's last wish. Marissa hadn't just given them life. She'd left behind a compass, a moral north, pointing straight to love, forgiveness, and second chances. 1 month later, on what would have been Marissa's birthday, Alan hosted a memorial at the courthouse garden. Judges, clerks, and old friends came. He gave a speech, not as a man of law, but as a man transformed. She didn't ask for anything but dignity, and she gave me the gift of becoming who I was too proud to be. He ended with these words, etched later on a small stone beneath a rose bush. She didn't seek justice, she created it, in the lives she touched. From then on, Alan Merrick was no longer defined by the bench, the robes, or the titles. He was defined by a choice. The choice to say yes when it was almost too late. The choice to become the father he was always meant to be. And in that choice, he gave Lily and Noah more than a home. He gave them a future.